All right, let's jump right in. We're talking about API security today, specifically from a developer's point of view. We're going to break down how the very code that makes our modern apps so powerful can also be their biggest point of failure.
So let me ask you something. When you're binge watching a show on Netflix, scrolling through Instagram, or checking your bank account on your phone, what's that invisible engine making it all work seamlessly? You use it constantly, probably without even thinking about it.
Well, the answer is APIs, Application Programming Interfaces. They're basically the digital glue that holds our entire connected world together. They are the silent workhorses running in the background of pretty much every single digital interaction you have. So let's really start from square one, because before we can talk about locking down our applications, we need to understand the doorway itself. What exactly is an API? And maybe more importantly, how surprisingly easy is it to create one?
The easiest way to think about an API is like a menu at a restaurant. It tells you what you can order, how to order it, and what you'll get back. It's a clear, simple contract that lets two completely different pieces of software talk to each other without needing to know anything about how the other one's kitchen or code base actually works.
And here's the thing. Building a basic API isn't some huge, complicated project anymore. With a framework like Flask, which is super popular in the Python world for being so lightweight, you can get a simple API up and running in minutes. That accessibility is why they are literally everywhere. And I mean, just look at this. This isn't just theory. This is basically a working API. That first line, @app.route, that's just the URL, the address on your digital front door. The little function below it is the person who answers the door. And that return line, that's just them handing over the data in a nice, neat package. Boom, you've just created an API. But this simplicity, well, that's where the danger begins.
Right. So this is where the story takes a sharp turn, because the very same things that make APIs so great, their power, their ease of use, also transform them from a business asset into a huge, glowing target for attackers.
Take a look at this number, 94%. What on earth could that be? Well, according to a recent report from Salt Security, this number is, frankly, it's terrifying.
It's the percentage of companies that had an API security incident in the last year. And the really wild part of that quote is that it's happening even while these companies are trying to do the right thing, shifting left to build security in from the start. It just goes to show you that good intentions are not a security strategy.
Let's go right back to that front door analogy. Every single API you create, every endpoint you expose to the internet is another door into your house. And the more valuable the stuff inside your house, customer data, private messages, financial records, the more people are going to be jiggling the doorknobs, looking for one that's unlocked.
So, what do? How do you even begin to defend against this? It feels like a massive problem, but the key is to break it down strategically. We need a plan, a structured approach that covers the entire life of an API, a blueprint for our defenses.
The best way to think about it is in 3 phases, or pillars. First, you have the design and build phase. Second, you have the testing phase. And third, you have the protection phase, when it's out there running in the wild. So secure, test, and protect. It's a cycle. Okay, pillar 1, secure by design. This is all about being proactive. It means properly documenting everything, having a plan for when your real-world APIs inevitably drift away from that documentation, and, crucially, discovering every single API you have. That includes the shadow APIs that a developer spun up for a quick test and forgot about, or the old zombie APIs from previous versions that never got shut down. After all, you can't protect what you don't even know you have.
And this chart really shows you where the trouble starts. See, even though we have great tools like OpenAPI to automate documentation, a huge chunk of companies are still relying on spreadsheets or just, hoping a scan finds everything. This struggle to just get a basic inventory is where the very first cracks in your security start to form.
Next up, pillar 2, test continuously. This is a reminder that security testing is not a one-time thing. You absolutely need automated tools. They're great for finding common bugs, but they have a massive blind spot. They don't understand your business logic. They can't tell you if a user can abuse a feature in a way you never intended. For that, you need real, human-powered penetration testing on your most critical APIs. There's just no substitute.
And that brings us to our third pillar,
Protect in runtime. This is your active 24/7 security guard. And let me be clear, a traditional web application firewall, a WAF, is not going to cut it. They were built for old-school websites, not for the complex, back-and-forth conversations of APIs. Real runtime protection needs to understand the context of an API call. It needs to use things like AI to spot weird behavior, like one user suddenly trying to download your entire customer database. And of course, it needs to be ready for attacks that just try to overwhelm your service and shut it down.
Now let's zoom in on the single most critical part of runtime protection. This is the bedrock of it all: access control. Every single time your API gets a request, it has to have a solid answer for two very basic questions.
And here they are: authentication and authorization. People get these mixed up constantly, but it's simple. Authentication, or Auth-N, is the bouncer at the club door checking your ID. It's just answering the question, who are you? Authorization, or Auth-Z, is what happens after you get past the bouncer. It determines which rooms you can go into, what drinks you can order, and answers the question, okay, I know who you are, but what are you actually allowed to do here? You get one of these wrong, and your whole system is vulnerable.
Now, listen up, because this is a huge, huge warning. A lot of us treat API keys like they're a password. They are not. I'll say it again. An API key is not a secure form of authentication. They are so easy to steal from a mobile app's code or just by watching network traffic. They're fine for identifying an app, but for anything sensitive, they are not enough.
Okay, that was a lot, I know. We went from the simple act of creating an API to the massive risk they pose, to a whole framework for defending them. So the big question is, what's your next move? Where do you even start?
Well, the advice from the experts is pretty practical. Absolutely, test your APIs. But you have to accept that testing will never catch everything. So if you're worried about active attacks or just don't know where to begin, the most critical first step is runtime protection. Think of it as triage. It stops the bleeding. It slows attackers down and gives you the visibility you need to go back and fix the root causes. And remember to look everywhere, not just at the official APIs you know about.
When it all comes down to it, the main takeaway is this: security isn't a feature. It's not a final layer of paint you add at the end of a project. It has to be a mindset, a continuous process that's baked into every single stage of an API's life, from the first line of code to the day it's retired.
So, I'll leave you with one final thought to reflect on. Your APIs aren't just the technical detail. They are the core of your application, the front door to your most critical data. So you have to ask yourself, is that door locked and bolted, or is it swinging wide open for anyone to walk through?